it's this little piece of high ground here. So this is the objective we have to take. You can see the neon colored ground there. First thing we want to do is we want to find out where the enemy is. We have a little bit of pre-battle intel. You can see these floating icons here that are showing some enemy. These are the icons for enemy fortifications. In this case, they're trenches. If you zoom in, we're going to do more on fortifications in the next mission. So yeah, you can see a bit of trench here. There's more of them though, you just can't see them. So yeah, it gives you a bit of pre-battle intel, but there's probably going to be enemies elsewhere. I think if I toggle trees off really quickly, you can see what looks like an anti-tank gun somewhere in this area, and some infantry here. So, first thing we want to do is we want to find the enemy, because you don't want to just run your units towards the objective. You're probably just going to get shot up in the open. So, we have some scout teams. You can see that they are scout teams by the, it says scout team down here, and they have a special floating icon. It's a dude looking through binoculars. Those are scout teams. They're armed with, for most nations, they're armed primarily with submachine guns. You don't really want to fight with them in most cases, especially in a circumstance like this. So a little tip is give them a target arc. That means that they're not going to shoot at distant targets and reveal themselves. So if you want to, you can give them a target arc like this. You can give them a target arc like this. Or, new trick, if you hold down Shift while you're setting the arc, then it'll become a circle, and you just move the cursor in and out to dictate the size of the circle. And all you have to do is click once, and it'll set it. I'm going to set it to 50 meters. That means that they'll defend themselves at close range, but outside of that, they're not going to shoot at enemies they spot and give themselves away, and then they're going to get shot up. So what we're going to do is we're going to send these guys to base of fire. Quick tip, very useful in heavily wooded areas like this. You notice it's kind of hard to see the ground here. If you hit Alt-T, it will toggle off the trees. The trees are still there. They're just not displaying for you. Useful for giving commands. And then you can toggle it back on. There's also another toggle. You hit it again, and it will show trees that are close to the camera. It will turn off everything but the trunks, and distant trees that are far away from the camera, it'll still show the full tree. Okay, so for these guys, since we're reconning, we're going to use a new movement command called Hunt. The default hotkey is U. It's down here in the middle of the movement command panel. We're going to give them a hunt order. It works exactly the same as any other movement order, except what happens is they're going to move rifles at the ready. They're going to move at a slow pace. We're going to go ahead and let the turn go. And what happens is, you can see this is what the guys in Hunt look like. What happens is, if they spot an enemy unit, or depending on the circumstance, if they spot an enemy unit, or if they get shot at, they end the movement order. The movement order gets canceled, and they drop to the ground. Very useful if you're moving units forward and you're not sure what the situation is ahead of you. It prevents your units from getting into trouble, right? Overextending themselves and running into a bad spot. As soon as they get shot at, they're going to stop moving so that they'll be able to take cover. Very useful for recon. If you can't get line of sight on an enemy MG that's firing on your squad, my suggestion is you need to get line of sight on that unit. You need to find another spot that can actually see at it, and if you know where the enemy MG is, you can put some area fire on it to keep its head down. If you don't, you're just going to need to move to another vantage point. If a unit with a normal command, I'd have to see the exact situation, but yeah, that's a really tricky situation. You need to basically, so units over time will spot more. So my recommendation, if there's an enemy MG that's firing at your team and you can't actually see it, you don't know where it's coming from, you're just going to have to get more vantage points and figure out where it is. Eventually, if your guys can actually see where it's firing at, and if it's firing at them, then obviously they can see the spot where it's at, even if they don't know where that is yet. Eventually, you'll get a little contact icon. I'm going to turn the trees off again, like this one here. And then you should be able to, you'll have a general idea of where the machine gun team is, and you can use area fire on it to help suppress the machine gun. So if a normal move command goes under fire, it depends on the amount of incoming fire. The unit will try to fulfill its orders. It'll just keep going. But if they start taking casualties or they get an intense amount of fire, morale is going to dictate what's going to happen next. They may get pinned where they're just going to stop moving and go into place and cancel their orders. They may even, if they get a significant amount of fire, they may run to the nearest cover and cancel their movement orders. It's going to be highly variable depending upon what kind of type of cover they're in, their morale state, the amount of enemy fire coming in. But yeah, your best laid movement plans can definitely go in the crapper really quick if enemy starts shooting at you. Your units will move elsewhere or cancel their orders or whatever. Okay, so we're going to play out for one more turn and let these guys move into their objective. These guys are probably going to get shot at because we're at pretty close range. We're pretty close to this. So they're probably going to get spotted and shot at, which is not a big deal because as soon as they do, they're going to go to ground. And they're in pretty heavy cover here. If you look at this, this is pretty dense terrain here. So as soon as they drop down to the ground, the enemy should lose sight of them. Yep, there's the shots. Okay, so they've spotted someone. You'll notice that as soon as we've spotted them, a solid icon has appeared. We only have a little bit of information. It just tells you what enemy units. This is not all of the enemy unit here, obviously. There's more than this guy here. But this is all we can see, is this one guy. And it's a light machine gun. So another thing about actually, I'm going to wait a little bit before I talk about the translucence of the contacts. Okay. So, this is a confirmed spotted enemy unit, and as you can see now that we've got guys... Why are you... oh, shoot, I forgot to set a target arc for those guys, didn't I? Okay, here's a great demonstration of why you set target arcs for your scouts. These guys have started shooting on this enemy unit they spotted over here, and now they're going to give themselves away. Okay, so this icon here is for a Panzerschreck. So we've spotted a Panzerschreck unit in using foxholes right here. So yeah, you'll notice over time they start spotting more stuff. So it's not like a lot of games where once they're in line of sight, they start automatically spotting things. As time goes by, the chance of them spotting more things increases. So yeah, I forgot to give these guys a cover arc like a dum-dum. So let's go ahead and give them one now. So you notice, like, for example, these guys here, they're down here. If you look down here at the suppression meter, this tells you the unit's suppression state. These guys are pinned. That means that they're going to ignore all movement orders. So, for example, if I'd given these guys a movement order to go somewhere else, and they went in this pinned state, they'd cancel their movement orders and they'd stay put. And these guys have just a little bit of suppression. That's not enough to really affect them in any way, but it shows that they are receiving incoming fire. You can tell by the color down there. The further up the color goes, it starts turning red and stuff. That means the more suppression from more enemy fire. Okay, so now we got an idea of where the enemy is. We've definitely got some guys out in front here. We're going to, if you see this little icon here, these are machine guns. So the basic idea for this battle, here's our battle plan. Okay, I'm going to zoom up to a big top-down view. Basic idea for this battle plan is, this is my base of fire. I'm going to put my heavy units here, like my machine guns, and if I had them, mortars would go here. They are then going to fire on the enemy defenses, and they're going to suppress them, force them out of the defenses, whatever. They're going to keep their heads down, and hopefully kill some of them. Then I have a rifle platoon over here. They are going to be my attack element. I'm going to move them along here through these covered woods, and then while my base of fire is shooting on this to keep their heads down, the attack element is going to attack from the side. They're going to try and get as close as possible through covered terrain like these woods, and then they're going to close assault it while I have the base of fire attacking it. So that two-part attack, the base of fire suppressing them, and then the assaulters coming in from a covered position to get as close as possible and attack them, is you're going to be using variations of that tactic in pretty much every combat mission game there is, every combat mission scenario. How you execute it is going to be completely different based on the forces you have and the terrain available, but that's the idea. So, now that we've got... oh yeah, we actually need to get my base of fire in first. So, while we're moving the machine guns, I'm going to go ahead and toggle the trees off for a second to make it easier to look at. I'm going to show you how to stack commands. You can actually stack multiple commands on a waypoint. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So we're going to go ahead and give them an order. We're going to give them some orders to move up first. So, whoops, what did I do? There we go. Okay, so I've made a waypoint. What I do is I cancel making the waypoint, or I stop giving more waypoints. I then go, we're going to do something weird. We're going to put a pause command on this waypoint. So what I do is select the waypoint by left-clicking on it. We're going to do pause. You'll notice that a pause has appeared above the waypoint. So pause is a good command if you want to coordinate actions during a turn. What this means is we haven't added another waypoint yet. I'm going to put another waypoint up here, but what happens is when they hit this waypoint, they are going to pause for 5 seconds before they continue carrying out their orders. And if you continue hitting pause, you can add 5-second increments. It goes all the way up to 1 minute 30 seconds, I believe. And then this is an indefinite pause. They'll stay there until you tell them otherwise. And then if you hit again, it'll turn it off. So it basically cycles through. So we'll give them 5 seconds. Okay, so they have an extra command stacked on this waypoint. We then left-click to deselect the waypoint. We'll then give another quick order to right here. So you'll see that we've got a waypoint here. We've got the pause above it. So the pause is just going to happen here and not here. So then we're going to stack a combat command on this waypoint here. We stop giving the order by right-clicking. We then left-click on the waypoint to select it. We'll do a target arc. Select target arc. You'll notice that the target arc draws from this waypoint instead of the unit's current position. So what it means is this target arc is not going to take effect until they reach this point. What you can do is you can stack one command per panel on a waypoint. So not admin though. Admin is different. Admin's just for splitting squads. So you could stack 3 commands onto a waypoint. We're not going to do a third for this one because it's not necessary. But this gives you an idea. So what they're going to do in turn is they're going to run here, pause for 5 seconds, run to this point, and then they're going to set up and then adopt this fire arc, this target arc right here. So that's stacking waypoints. It helps dictate the different things the unit's going to do during the different legs of its turn. You can get really elaborate with it if you want to. For these guys, I'm just going to give them some simple orders. I tend to be the kind of player, I just give pretty simple orders. That's the way I play. But some people, they like to give really elaborate, commands to a ton of units, and that's great. They can do that. Okay, so while the base of fire here is setting up, I'm going to go ahead and get the assault element moving. You normally want to avoid exposing them to the enemy fire. Like, you don't want to run across this. This is open ground. They're going to get hurt pretty badly if they run across this, right? They're going to get shot up from those machine guns. So what you want to do instead is take advantage of the terrain and move them around this way, where you got all these, if you go down to ground view, you've got all these trees covering their advance. So I'm going to go ahead and give them quick movement orders to get them there quickly. We're going to move them into the wood line here at first. And then we'll refine their orders from there. And this icon here, by the way, is a sniper team. The little crosshairs here. Some units come with them, most don't. They're usually little 2-man teams. They got a scoped rifle. Pretty handy at spotting. That's what I usually use them for. All right, so this is the company headquarters here with a company headquarters sniper team. We're going to go ahead and move them into the base of fire as well. So you notice I'm kind of spreading the units out. You don't want to bunch them all up on one action spot, because what happens then, if the enemy gets a lucky shot in, they get like a machine gun burst that's going to hit all of those units and suppress all of those units, and the result will be ugly. So you want to try and spread. This is actually pretty clustered, even spread out like this. Optimally, I'd probably spread them out all along this. But yeah, so you want to try and keep them spread out so that enemy fire isn't going to mess up everything. Okay, next, we do start with some armored cars. In keeping with the recon theme at the beginning of the battle, armored cars are pretty much for recon. You can use them for combat, but they're not going to be as strong as tanks. Their armor is pretty weak. Even machine gun fire will give them problems. So armored cars, you want to keep them at a distance from enemy units, and if they're under fire, it's probably a good idea to pull them back. So as you can see, I've selected the Open Up command in the Special tab. What this tells the guy to do is this guy here is going to stick his head out. He's going to actually look out of the vehicle. Vehicles spot much, much